Today's episode of the After Chat is brought to you by Blue Chew.
Yes, they're back again.
And you can be back again to your best, Bill, and anyone else who's listening if you go to BlueChew.com.
What was that?
That's BlueChew.com, like the color blue. BlueChew.com brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know they work. Bill, what have you heard about Blue Chew lately?
Only great things from several friends of mine.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And even people in the wrestling business have been...
by the way, that one wrestler, remember last week I was telling you about him? And
Yeah.
he listened to the After Chat and he tried it, and he wants to stay home with the wife a lot more now.
Well, that might be the end of his career, but it might be the beginning of a beautiful relationship with his wife, thanks to Blue Chew. Now, you too can have the same career-altering effects that this wrestler had if you go to BlueChew.com and you use the promo code BILL, B-I-L-L, to try it free.
Yes,
yeah, that's right.
He's 6'3". Yes, that's all I can tell you.
We're getting personal here. And you too can get personal with Blue Chew. If you go to BlueChew.com right now, type in promo code BILL, B-I-L-L, you can get your first shipment free. Just pay $5 shipping and you get your first shipment free. Bill, that's not even just one pill. That's the entire month free.
Well, this particular wrestler has a 3-month supply. So if you don't see him on TV for a while, he's at home and very happy.
So that's right. Any wrestler that you don't see on TV in the next 3 months is more than likely enjoying the effects of Blue Chew.
I know this one guy is for sure.
So Blue Chew is prescribed online, and that's an important thing for us to tell the After Chatters here, because it's going to ship straight to your door in a discreet package, so no in-person doctor's visit, no waiting in the pharmacy, and best of all, no awkwardness.
Hey, what's this? What's he doing here? Yeah, the doctor's office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll be hearing a lot of yeah when you use Blue Chew. Again, that's BlueChew.com, promo code BILL for your first shipment absolutely free. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice, and we thank them for sponsoring the After Chat. Welcome to the After Chat. I'm Josh Shernoff, and I am joined, as always, by the star of the show, Wonderful Willie himself, Bill Apter.
Well, thank you. And I love that you call me Wonderful Willie or WW, and it's great. And as soon as I hear Wonderful Willie, I go right into the Dusty voice, because he used to always call me a Wonderful Willie, if you will. And now that so many people are en route to StarCast and All In, the dream is happy to be here, if you will. I had to get the Dusty.
So I was going to say, so is that Wonderful Willie who morphed into Dusty Rhodes?
Well, Wonderful Willie's personality when he's doing his promos was based upon the Dusty Rhodes voice. And I never realized that until I looked at some of the tapes that people can see during my one-man show of the Cal Championship Office Wrestling matches that I show at my one-man show.
Cal Championship Office Wrestling. That's a great T-shirt.
Oh,
over
yeah.
At theafterchat.com.
That's right. But in the videos that people can see at my one-man show, when Wonderful Willie is challenging people or answering some wrestlers like Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, DDP, he answered them like this. Wonderful Willie's title, baby, is the gold, the cardboard is around my waist.
So how long did it take you to realize that that was a Dusty Rhodes impression that you were doing as Wonderful Willie?
Probably 2 weeks ago.
And you've been doing it for how many years?
Probably about 35, 40 years.
Okay.
No, the voice, the Wonderful Willie voice sometimes takes on different characters. It could be Hulk Hogan. It could be, hey, brother, if you want to come after my cow title. Or it can be the Grand Wizard of wrestling from way back. I'm going to destroy my next opponent. So there I go, doing imitations again.
Could you do an imitation of, let's say, Sting in 1996 and 1997?
No, he didn't have one of these real imitatable voices.
Yeah, I was
in my
joking. He
estimation.
didn't speak for all of 96 and 97.
That's right. He was the Crow. That's right. Well, I can look. Watch this.
Oh, wow.
Perfect, huh?
Man, how did you get that face paint on so quickly?
I can't tell you. I can't tell you.
So, what
So
feedback
you got
did
me
you
on
get?
you got me on the history there, because when you throw out a year like that, I don't remember that Sting didn't talk during
Well,
that time.
In fairness, your years in the business are a lot longer than mine, so I have a much shorter amount of years to remember.
Exactly.
That was a really nice way of my saying you're old and I'm young.
Older
Wasn't
than
that
you.
really?
I'm an established veteran.
Right, you're
Yes.
aged
Yes.
like a fine wine.
Well, no, I don't think I'm aged. I'm just I'm just refined.
Well, I was saying like you get better with age.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you very
absolutely.
much. Yeah.
And thank all of you for joining us here on the Apter Chat, the Apter Chatters, if you will. You guys have been amazing this past
I
week.
see a lot of them out there from last time.
Yeah, there's been a lot of great feedback. We enjoy you guys just interacting with us on social media over at the Apter Chat, or me personally at So Says Shernoff, and Bill at Apter One Wrestling.
Yeah.
You guys are actually responsible for why this is airing a day early. This is dropping, I want to say 12 o'clock Thursday morning.
See, podcast people always say it's dropping.
Yes.
I always say it's airing on the pod waves.
Well, again, you're
Well, it has nothing to do with age. I came up with that last
airing
week.
on the pod waves,
Right? Because
Yes.
a few weeks ago we broke the pod waves with
Yes. Can we
Hulk Hogan.
copyright pod waves
Why
to the
not?
After Chat?
Yeah, and,
All right,
and the
we're doing it
podcast
now.
People,
This is it. This
the
is
pod
like
wave people. We can do that.
The pod wave people,
Right, exactly.
We're gonna send them on tour.
Like sitting right there is the president. The Blue Chew crew there's three of them from there right here.
The Blue Chew crew, and the
Yeah.
podcast people.
The pod wave people.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, because there was a podcast. Pod wave people. Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that pod wave person has been in that corner since last week, and I thought he was sleeping.
Well, you've ordered lunch for him, haven't you?
That's my bad.
You're bad.
Okay. So, what kind of feedback did you get from last week? Part 2 of the Hulk Hogan, the culmination of the 2-part interview with Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, which was incredible because it was all positive feedback with people saying that it was so nice and calm and just to chat about his career and some of the things like Austin Idol kind of kickstarting in Hogan's memory
Right.
bank, that maybe I should put this as part of my part of what I do in the ring. You know, this is like the Austin Mania that kickstarted into Hulkamania.
And I saw, and I want to give a shout out. We did that on Twitter already. WrestlingInc.com covered that part of the story.
Yeah, thank you, Wrestling Inksters.
Yeah, and you know what? And thank you to everybody, because that's part of how I think a lot of you may have heard of this, is a lot of the wrestling news sites covering this Hulk Hogan interview. And we just want to thank all of you who checked it out and stayed. We were really amazed how this show is just continuing to grow each week. And here we are in our 3rd week. And like I was saying before, thanks to the After Chatters, we are here a day early because they asked for it. They wanted to be able to listen to this on the way to All In and StarCast weekend.
Yes, and I'm excited about this. And today, another wrestling invitation. Our main guest, the main event is,
Did you hurt yourself?
I was trying to do my Stinger imitation.
Yes, our guest today is Sting. We
Yeah.
have part 1 of Sting. Now, I'm going to tell you up front, Bill, we talked about this.
Rather than in the back.
Right. That's
Okay.
basically
Right ahead.
the opposite of up front. So we are going to air part 1 of the Sting interview this week. And then we're going to air part 2 in 2 weeks.
Now, that's because next week we're going to talk about, there's a racket going on here.
A racket.
Yeah, there's a racket going on here.
Specifically, a tennis racket.
Yeah. James E. Cornette, the man, Jim Cornette, who said about my book, what the hell's wrong with Bill after he didn't knock anybody in that damn book of his? So Jim Cornette, in a very unusual interview, because he barely knocked anyone when we talked about him. So
but he did do something amazing for a lot of fans out there right now who are fans of Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard.
Yes.
They're familiar with Bruce Pritchard's impersonation, which Jim Cornette claimed to actually be Bruce Pritchard impersonating Jim Ross impersonating Jim Cornette. And we actually got Jim Cornette, and you will hear this next week. Jim Cornette is going to do Jim Cornette doing Bruce Pritchard, doing Jim Ross, doing Jim Cornette. If that's not a visual for you, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's something you do not want to miss. A great interview with Jim Cornette coming up next week. And then the following week will be part 2 of the Sting interview. But part 1 is still to come.
All right. However, before we get to that, it's time for Headlock on Headlines.
All right, Bill, we are just a couple of hours at this point when people are listening to this away from StarCast.
Yeah, I'm so psyched. And as you know, I will be all around the place. I will be running wild, brother. Of course, I'm hosting the Remembering Andy Kaufman panel with Jerry the King Lawler and Dutch Mantell. I'll be doing guesting on Wrestle Crap with R.D. Reynolds and several other wrestlers, and I'll have copies of my book for
Is
sale.
Wrestling Fixed?
I didn't know it was broken, but so far about 15 people have ordered copies in advance, asking me to bring them. So just find me, and we just might have to go into a corner somewhere and find one of my books, and I'll gladly sign them for you.
And if you're uncomfortable going into a corner somewhere with Bill, he'll sign your book somewhere else.
Yes.
I have a challenge for the After Chatters.
Okay.
I want as many of you as possible to pre-order a book for Bill to have to bring. I want to see Bill get off. I want to see Bill walking into that hotel with as many bags as he possibly can.
You know what that's going to cost on the airline, though?
Yeah, but you'll make it back in the book sales, I'm sure.
Not necessarily. I mean, you see what the airlines are charging these days?
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
All right. Even better. I want you guys to pre-order the book, as many books as you possibly can. That is my personal challenge to you. And guess what? Not only are we going to get to see Bill having to lug all these books in, but you're also going to get to read Is Wrestling Fixed?
I didn't know it was broken. And if you do want me to reserve a book for you, please hit me up on Twitter at Apter1Wrestling. That's the number 1, not the word, at Apter1Wrestling.
And since we're plugging your book right now, I think it would be a great time to say that you can go to theafterchat.com, and there's a link right there to go get that book if you are not going, or if you feel bad for Bill and don't want him to have to carry so many books and you want to get it in advance, although since they're hearing this on Thursday, you might be out of luck. I think timing isn't going to work out to get it in advance.
I know we have to get to the headlines, but I'm going to say I'm going to be schlepping the books.
Schlepping, of course.
It's a good word. I love that word, schlepping the books.
Very good, Phil.
Yeah.
Okay, so StarCast, though, that is our first headline. There are so many incredible things going on. People are so excited about it.
Thanks to Conrad Thompson, who was on our show last week.
Yes, the busiest man in wrestling today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was the brains behind this entire convention, and he did mention that there are going to be so many events going on all day, part of the night, and it's just good that you're going to need a program, a roadmap, and they do have a souvenir program that will be available there as well.
And we should mention for any of you who are listening to this now, saying, "Oh man, I'm glad you guys dropped the show early, aired the show early." But unfortunately, I'm not going to be there in Chicago. Well, we're going to give it, and this is we're not even getting paid to say this, but because they've been so gracious to us, we're going to be gracious to them, and you guys can watch the entire event on the Fight Network, Fight TV.
Fight TV app, yes.
FITE.
Right. Another good four-letter word that starts with an F.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with StarCast.
By the way, this is. I know we've been pushing. No. I know that we've been one of our sponsors is Blue Chew. Mm-hmm. While we're sitting here taping, this is not Blue Chew. It's Tic Tacs. I didn't want you to think I was taking Blue Chew while we're taping.
You know what? Blue Chew works so quickly because it's a chewable that I would have been petrified, or perhaps you would have been, to be having you take Blue Chew while we're just kicking off this.
Not a chance.
So I thank you so much for
Fruit Adventure Tic Tacs.
All right.
They're good. You want one?
Are they sponsoring our show?
Maybe. We might be able to get them.
All right. If they are, then of course, because Tic Tacs are my favorite mint of choice.
But
If
this
they're
isn't
not,
a mint.
then I'm not really into
This
Tic
isn't a
Tacs.
mint. This is Fruit Adventure. It's fruit flavored.
Well, you know what? Let's go on that fruit adventure another time. And for now, I want to talk about All In and the main event. And
Wait a minute.
We're calling it
there
the
are
main.
Tic Tac people sitting next to the Blue Chew crew and the Podway.
Do we have all? So the After Chatters can know, in case you're wondering this. Yes, we bring all of our sponsors and make them sit here and watch us record. Actually, we don't do it. They just don't trust us. They want to watch
the Tic Tac
us.
people are considering sponsoring us here.
So they're here right now. I love Tic Tacs.
Over there, you see who's in the left here? That's Tic.
Yeah.
And over on the right,
Is Tac?
yes, yeah. Have a good one male, one female. But go ahead. Let's get to the headlines.
What I was going to talk about, we're in the headlines, Bill. I don't know if you know this or not, but we're deep in the headlines now.
Yeah.
And so All In, I was referring to it as the main event, but we don't actually know what is going to main event this card. And I heard the Young Bucks talking about how they don't even know what's going to be main eventing. They have had a bunch of different ideas, and it's ever evolving. But to
Can
me,
I tell
the
you
biggest
what
show,
my main event is for this show?
Yes,
The National Wrestling Alliance.
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Heavyweight Championship match. In one corner, the heavyweight champion, NWA heavyweight champion of the world, Nick Aldis. And in the other corner, the challenger being walked to the ring by Diamond Dallas Page and Glacier, as Glacier revealed last week.
Yes.
The American Nightmare, if you will, Cody Rhodes. So to me, this is the main event. William Corgan, Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah,
who is
I mean,
the
you know him as
owner,
William.
Right. But who is
the rest
the,
of us just know
Billy
him
Baby.
more formally as Billy.
Right.
Yeah.
But who is the owner of the National Wrestling Alliance.
Yes.
This is a very high-profile match, and I would love to see. I'm going to tell you what do you want to know what I'd love to see? I
think we all want to know.
Yeah, I'd love to
what
see
you'd
the
love to see.
National Wrestling Alliance World Championship become what it was back in the days, and I don't know if this can happen, but I'm looking at it positively, of the days of like Dory Funk Jr. and Jack Briscoe and Harley Race. You didn't know I could do a Harley Race, did you?
That was a good one.
Ric Flair, all the great Sting, all the great champions there, and I think that the next step to making this NWA World Heavyweight Championship a great championship again will be whoever comes out of this match, if they bring that belt to Madison Square Garden in April in New York City, because that will be the first NWA title match possibly in history. And, well, I don't know, back in the 40s, it might be. It might be. We need our After Chatter historians
let us know.
You
know, and it's interesting you're saying that, because I think some people, their first thought might be, well, you're not going to have the NWA title at a Ring of Honor New Japan show.
Why not?
Forgetting the fact that it's already Ring of Honor and New Japan. That was in the heyday of the NWA.
Yeah, but why not?
Well, this is what I'm talking about. And you can obviously tell us much better than I can. In the heyday of the NWA champion would go from territory to territory. If you want to tell us a little bit about that.
Of course, he'd go from territory to territory.
All right, thank you for.
But yeah, the NWA champion one day would be in Charlotte, North Carolina. The next day he's in Tokyo, Japan.
Yeah.
The next day he's in Australia. And the next day he's in Atlanta, Georgia.
And that was kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, what the NWA was, the National Wrestling Alliance. It was all of these smaller promotions.
It was a group of promoters that mainly cooperated with each other under the banner of the National Wrestling Alliance.
Right.
And the man, in my opinion, who was the greatest NWA National Wrestling Alliance president was St. Louis's the great impresario, Sam Muchnick. Yeah. I'm talking way above.
I'm familiar with Sam
Muchnick.
Muchnick. Yeah. Obviously, it was a little bit before my time.
And I want to send a shout out to our good friend Larry Matisick, who was Sam's assistant for all those years, and for the past few years has been having some health problems. Just want to send my shout out to him as well.
But the After Chatters can send their positive vibes his way.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
But the National Wrestling Alliance Heavyweight Championship, one of these shows, I want to talk about how the NWA title was written about in the wrestling magazines before I started with the wrestling magazines. And one title change between Buddy Rogers, the champion, and Lou Thesz, who won it, changed the entire course of the wrestling business and kind of forcibly made Vince McMahon Sr. and Willie Gilzenberg and their partners create the WWF because of that match.
Wow.
A story for another show.
You know what I think we should do? At some point, we should have, and this is, folks, we haven't talked about this at all, but I'm listening to this, and I'm intrigued, and I think you guys are too, and girls. So I'm catching myself
you.
now.
I like it.
I think
I
about
like
it
it.
every time I say guys.
I like it.
At some point, I think it would be a great thing for us to have a themed episode all about the NWA Championship. And you know what would be amazing if we could pull it off? Whoever is the current NWA champion, have them on as a guest, and perhaps in the same episode we find a former NWA champion.
I'm
and we
sure.
put them on.
I'm sure that Dory Funk Jr. would love to come on. I'm sure Harley Race would love to come on.
And I bet we could even dig up some of your old classic interviews. Maybe on that same episode we could hear from maybe one of the NWA champions that isn't with us anymore.
You know what I have?
What do you have?
I ran it on YouTube a while ago, but Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. I have a
There you go.
cassette tape of his entire life story, and he does talk about his time as NWA champion.
Okay,
Wow.
I think
You
this
know
is
what?
something I think we're gonna
Yeah,
have.
nobody's
to do.
heard this.
We're gonna plan. Send us a tweet at the Apter Chat. Tell us what you think of that. If there are any other suggestions you would have for a theme like that. And you know what? While you're at it, send us some other ideas for themed episodes. That could be a fun thing for
Yeah,
us to
that
do
would be
here.
great.
You guys are you're getting Headlock on Headlines has kind of become a session of Bill and I sitting here coming up with things for the show.
Yes.
But no, I think that stuff would be great. Okay, what's next?
Braun Strowman.
How many syllables were
Braun, and I'm saying that
Braun's-
for a reason.
Because
Well, you give the news, and I'll tell you why.
okay, so last week's episode, you
headline.
felt that the Shield were the most hated faction at the end, and I told you that I disagreed with that. I thought the fans were behind it, and
Tic
we
Tacs.
didn't really have wonderful, and we didn't really have an opportunity to really find out because it was kind of decided for us. Braun Strowman. It appears as though he's turned heel. He has turned. I mean, I know
Turn
he's
bad guy to you people that still follow the magazine talk like me.
okay, but I think even the magazine talk nowadays, I think everybody knows.
go ahead.
Heel, and those who don't, well, now they just learned at the After Chat. The more you know. So Braun Strowman siding with, at least for the time being, siding with Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler in this feud against the Shield, and. I think a lot of people were really, really surprised to see, as Braun Strowman just seemed like he was on this meteoric rise as a fan favorite, as a good guy, if you will. And now he is a quote-unquote bad guy.
So my feeling about this now, the reason I said Braun Strowman, so he as a bad guy, he's a bad guy now. Brock Lesnar is out of the picture for a while. Would you like to see, because I know I would like to, see Paul Heyman step in and become the advocate for Braun Strowman?
I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, I think it would be great.
Personally, I think anytime you're going to see Paul Heyman on TV is good.
Yeah, but you know what? You know what
so-
they're thinking, though? I think what this is going to be at an upcoming pay-per-view, or maybe a close in the future one, is going to be the three members of the Shield against Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, and Dolph Ziggler. They set the stage for it already.
They have, and I believe at Hell in a Cell, we're going to be seeing Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship inside Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
So maybe they can just drag this out a little longer and add some people and have a traditional Survivor Series match.
Actually,
elimination.
Saving this for the Survivor Series.
That's exactly
this
what I'm
being
saying.
September. Yeah, it's logical.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely logical.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna take
you
that
made
as a
lot of
personal
sense.
compliment.
It's good. So a headlock on headline here is that the headline is Braun Strowman has turned heel or bad guy, and that's something we didn't think was going to happen. We figured the fans were going to boo Roman Reigns
they're
out
still
of the
going
building.
to.
Yeah,
And that's something I wanted to mention to you. I'm glad you brought that up. So the fans were booing at the end of Raw. They were booing Braun Strowman as he stood, arm in arm with Drew and Dolph.
You're on a first name basis with them already? Okay, go
Drew,
ahead.
I'm on a first
Go
name
ahead.
basis with.
Right, I know that. We'll get into that on another show.
We'll talk about that another time. Yes, they were booing Braun Strowman. But I think when it comes time to them being in the ring, I don't see that happening. I don't see them booing Braun Strowman when he's in the ring with Roman Reigns. And if they do, I don't see that translating into cheers for Roman Reigns. And I understand they want to stay the course with him. To me, I understand that so much more goes into this than just the story nowadays.
Yeah, of course.
You're talking merchandise. You're talking going on shows and promoting and whatnot. So I get all of that. To me, I still think that if Roman Reigns were to go heel, I think in a couple years, the fans would be begging for him to be a face. And I think he would be white hot. I think he would be the biggest face they had if they let him have a little bit of a heel run, let the fans get it out of their system, and then let the fans turn him back, because that's something that they were doing with Roman Reigns before the whole Royal Rumble debacle, where the only reason they turned on Roman Reigns was because of Daniel Bryan getting eliminated.
Right, exactly.
It was the only reason why.
But it's interesting now to see how the fans are going to react to Braun Strowman. Are they still going to cheer him because they want him to?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think they're going to boo
Reigns'
him. I think they'll boo him when he's with Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler.
I agree.
I
agree.
I'm not on as first name with some of those guys like William from But okay, what else do we have on Headlock on Headlines? So this is an interesting one. A 12-year-old girl named Izzy, who a lot of fans know as from NXT. She was the Super Bayley fan.
Yes.
Who cried when Sasha Banks took the bracelet from her, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So she was just involved over the weekend in an independent wrestling show.
I heard about this.
And she wrestled a match and was chokeslammed in this
12 years old.
in this match. Yeah. And Lince Dorado from 205 Live, it was very outspoken, not condoning this one bit.
Right.
He said as a father and as a wrestler, he was really disgusted with it. I'm curious what your thoughts are. I have my own personal opinions on this. I should add that she was wrestling a man as well.
She agreed to do this.
She's 12 years old.
Right. Her parents must have said, "Hey,
Yeah.
go ahead and do it. This is your dream."
And let me tell you something.
And I'm not condoning this, but I'm saying they knew ahead of time what they were getting into.
Right. If I were 12 years old, there is no chance I would have turned down an opportunity to wrestle.
I know
a
that.
Match. So right off the bat, I don't blame her one bit. This is a 12-year-old girl who is an uber wrestling fan.
Right.
I completely understand her wanting to do this. As a father myself, and you are a father as well,
Right.
You have to think maybe the parents should have looked at this and said, hey, that's really cool. Couldn't you get involved in the ring in some way and not be wrestling a match against a large man and getting choke slammed?
The thing is, unless we actually know who said what to who, we can't really.
No, I can't say,
Yeah.
I don't want to blame the parents because maybe they didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought she was just going to the show and whatnot, and I don't want to judge in that regard. What I will say is, in my opinion, I just, and I'm the guy who ran the Teenage Wrestling Foundation
I know
at 15.
it. I know it. I was the commissioner.
Yeah, so I get the idea of that. I get that, the kid's wanting to do it. But I don't like the idea of this 12-year-old girl being chokeslammed by this grown man. And of course they, obviously, it was a work.
What was the tweet?
The tweet. I don't actually have it in front of me, the actual tweet from him. But no, it was just kind of just saying, like, I think this was this just wasn't appropriate.
Okay.
And I was just curious your opinion on it, but this is a
I need to know all the facts before I can give you an opinion on it. I haven't seen it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course you can. It's the Apter chat here.
When your daughter was 12 years old, how would you have felt about her getting in the ring and being chokeslammed?
I would have said no. You can't do it.
That was my only...
If you want to get into the ring, you can get into the ring. And when she was a little kid at the IWCCW shows at Kutcher's in the Catskills, she held the American flag while the national anthem was going. And that was a big thing for her.
I even remember at one of our shows...
And then she was chokeslammed.
Yeah, right. I even remember one of our shows after the show was over. I remember you and Brandon, your son Brandon, getting into the ring. And there's nothing wrong with a kid, especially when you're connected to somebody playing around in the ring. Yeah, especially with father. But being, I mean, and I did see the video. It was a little much. It was a little much. And
I'm saying if it was my kid, no.
I agree.
Okay.
All right, and that is Headlock on Headlines.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
Listen, don't make this look too. I'm whispering. Don't make this look too obvious. But you see where the Blue Chew crew are sitting over there?
Yeah.
They're talking and their thumbs are up right now. I think I heard them saying that they're giving the thumbs up because they're very happy about the Blue Chew commercial that of Blue. Can you say Blue Chew Crew 5 times fast?
Can you say it 1 time fast?
I can't. Can you do it 5 times fast?
Blue Chew Crew, Blue Chew Crew, Blue Chew Crew, Blue Chew Crew, Blue Chew Crew.
You said that 5 times fast, and it's the Blue Chew Crew. And by the way, do you know that they're hosting the after party at StarCast this weekend?
I do. They're going to be hosting the after party.
Wait, who's going to be?
Blue Chew, the Blue Chew Crew.
Right.
Yeah. They will be hosting the after party after All In on Saturday night back at the hotel. They're going to be hosting that party, and I think the whole Blue Chew crew is going to be there, and you're going to be there, and I'm going to be there, and I think everybody's just going to be having a really good time. Yeah. And if you want to make sure that if that night, and hey, you want to hang with the guys, you want to have a good time, you just want to, whatever it is, that's cool. But maybe you look over to the side, and you see somebody, and you say, hey, let's talk. And one thing leads to another, and it's time to go up to the hotel room. Let's say, I don't know what you guys are going to do up there. It's not any of my business. But you're tired. It's been a long day, a whole lot of activity at StarCast, a whole lot of action at All In. And maybe you want to be all in. Maybe you want to have your action. Well, now with Blue Chew, you're going to be able to. Yeah, that's right, Bill. You can cringe, but they're not going to cringe. They're going to love Blue Chew.
You can become a member of the Blue Chew crew.
Yes, and you can use promo code BILL, that's BILL, and you can get your first shipment free. Now, I don't know if the Blue Chew crew is going to have any chew on them, if you will, but you can go to bluechew.com and you can use promo code BILL, BILL, to get your first shipment absolutely free. Just pay $5 shipping. So let's just remind everybody what Blue Chew is about, okay? Blue Chew is a chewable, the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. That's how you know that they work. You can take them anytime, day or night, even on a full stomach. So if you've been hanging out at this after party the whole time, it doesn't matter. Hey, eat as much as you want, have yourself a great time, and then pop a Blue Chew when it becomes appropriate later in the night so that things can become, shall we say, maybe a little less appropriate. They work up to twice as fast as a pill, so you can be ready whenever the opportunity arises. And as we've talked about, Blue Chew is prescribed online, and it's shipped straight to your door in discreet packaging. So you're not going to the doctor, you're not waiting at the pharmacy. It's not awkward for you. You can just get it, and then you can get it, if you know what I mean. They're made in the USA, and since Blue Chew prepares and ships direct, they're cheaper than a pharmacy. So again, I want everybody to know about the special deal that we have for the After Chatters. If you go to bluechew.com, you get your first shipment free when you use the promo code BILL. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice, and we thank them for sponsoring the After Chat.
It's time now for the main event.
Yes.
As you know, or you may not know, Sting rarely does interviews. The man known as Sting keeps his personal life and even talking about his career pretty much to a minimum. However, when I called him and I said, Sting, it's Bill Apter. I have a brand new podcast with Josh Shernoff called the Apter Chat. Would you consider being on our podcast? And without hesitation, he said yes. And this is due...
He said, for Josh Shernoff,
He'll do anything. Yeah, but based upon the both professional and personal relationship I've had with him for so many years when he first started out, I felt that this would just be a great sit back and listen chat for his fans, the big stingers and the little stingers, to enjoy. And in this two-parter, Sting reveals a lot of things that even I didn't know about.
Yeah, and it definitely kind of, for just to give you guys a heads up of what you're going to be listening to, like Bill said, it is a chat. And it was really nice for me to kind of, for part of it, be a fly on the wall and just to see, just be able to hear this friendship between the two of you and the mutual respect that you guys have. And I know I was joking a little bit earlier, but it's really, it was really great to be able to witness that and be a part of that, and just to be able to be a part of an interview with Sting. He talked about his time teaming with the Ultimate Warrior in the beginning of his career, all the way to the last Nitro, all the way to his run in the WWE. He talked about Seth Rollins, and some of that is going to be in part 2. But I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that while there is tons of really interesting stuff in part 1, some of the more modern stuff is going to be featured in part 2, like when he discusses his match with Seth Rollins, and that's going to be in 2 weeks.
Yes.
But you guys are going to, if you sit back and listen to this, you're going to learn some really interesting history about Sting.
Next week, we have a special interview with Jim Cornette, and again, the following week, part 2 with Sting. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, this is Sting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we are here at the Apter Chat, and of course I have to do this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Sting. Welcome to the Apter Chat. Boy, I'm thrilled that you're here.
Well, I'm happy to be here, Bill. We go back so many years now.
We do.
I'm glad that you asked me to do it.
Well, and I thank you for saying yes, because I know you don't do a lot of these type of things, so I'm really honored, and it shows that both our professional and personal relationships meant something to you and to me, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, man. I still have a Leroy Neiman sketch in my possession.
Oh, I forgot about that. So let me talk about that at the beginning. Josh, do you know who Leroy Neiman was?
I'm sad to admit that, no, I don't.
Leroy Neiman was the greatest artist that Sports Illustrated ever had. Correct, Sting?
Yeah, I don't think it was just exclusively with Sports Illustrated.
Right.
I thought he was just a sports artist in general. And you know, I know that at one time, you know, a lot of his paintings, many of them, especially after he died, were, you know, they're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So.
Oh, yeah. And I used to go up to Muhammad Ali's training camp because we also did boxing magazines, and he'd be there sketching Muhammad Ali. He sketched and drew artwork that sold for millions of dollars at his death. And some of the things that he did on people like Ali and all this. So the story was that you came up to our office when I was working for Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and Leroy Neiman was up there that same day, correct?
Well, I wasn't there, but I mean, from what you told me, yeah, he was there, and he saw the cover of Sports Illustrated. I mean,
Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Right. You weren't there the same day.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then I was on the cover, and he grabbed some markers that were right there on the desk and just started sketching, and he signed it, 1994, Leroy Neiman, and you know, I didn't even realize how cool it was then. I mean, I knew who Leroy was, but not just how popular or how big he was. He was huge.
Yeah, I just looked him up now, and I know exactly who he. I didn't know his name, but I can picture, you know.
Josh is a little bit above millennial age here, so.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Don't call me a millennial. I'm definitely not a millennial. But
I didn't. But now
it's a prized possession to me. So
that's awesome.
Well, now you have no idea. Well, maybe you did, of the heat, using a wrestling word, that I got from the other editors in the office, that You gave that to him? Do you realize what this could be worth? Leroy Neiman sketched Sting, and you sent it to him? I said, yeah, he's my friend. To this day, and I had forgotten this story, but to this day, if that's ever brought up to any of the Stu Sachs, Craig Peters, any of those people, they remember that story.
Yeah. Fast forward a few years, 10 years from now, we find out Sting actually has a copy and Bill Apter has the original.
No, right. I wouldn't do that to you. So one of the other things I'm going to tell you another thing that I remember that you did that, and again, the thing with Leroy Neiman, I had said to him, I said, he asked who you were when he saw the copy of PWI. This is all coming back to me now. And I said, that's Sting. I said, do you think you could do a sketch? And he said, sure. And they were all looking at me in the office there like, Apter's asking Leroy Neiman to do this. So you people who don't know who it is, please Google Leroy Neiman. One of the things that you did, though, that was one of the classiest things I've ever seen done with your first wife after you won the World Heavyweight Championship for the first time. About 4 days later, the secretary at Pro Wrestling Illustrated comes over to my desk with a bouquet of flowers. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do. But I mean, it sounds so, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't sound masculine enough here. But
did you have to say the flowers? I mean, could you? And actually, that was give credit where credit is due. That was more my ex-wife.
It was more of your ex-wife, but it was one of the classiest things.
Yeah, I mean, I was, yeah. I mean, I was grateful anyway, and so she kind of took care of, those types of things and said, do you want to send something to Bill? I said, of course I do. Yeah, let's do it. So she would do those kind of things.
Yeah, but that was, I have to tell you, my reaction when it came to my desk and it was said to Bill and everyone at PWI, thank you for all your support. No one ever sent me flowers before, so it was a whole FTD thing. So I wanted to thank you publicly for that.
Yeah, I can't take all the credit, unfortunately, but yeah, I got you.
If you'd like, we can edit that out to sound like it was like a box of cigars or something.
Well, wait a minute. What would you have sent if it was just you and you sent something? What would it have been?
Oh man, I would have been creative. I mean, I know that. I mean, it would have been. I don't know. I would have found out what your interests were. I don't know. I have no idea.
God, lifetime of dark chocolate.
Something cool,
Yeah, yes. So one of the things that we're going to talk about later on, because we have a lot to talk about, is everybody, of course, wants to know about the situation with you and The Undertaker, but we have more to talk about before then. So I got one of the reasons when I called you that I wanted to bring you on to the show here, and it was actually the main reason, is my son Brandon, who's now in his early 30s, was the biggest, and still is, the biggest Sting fan in the whole world. And I remember when you first met him, when he was, 10 or 11 years old, I was allowed to bring him into the dressing room, and you sat him down, how school, Brandon, you became like his best friend. I'd never heard a wrestler talk to my son or anyone that age so honestly, like you were a relative. And through the years, we all kept in touch, but your relationship with the fans is one of the most unusual relationships I've ever seen, and I'll tell you why. I got an email from a fan talking about, and I never forgot this, that one of his favorite wrestlers, who's one of the biggest good guys in the whole world, he finally got to meet him, and the guy practically dissed him. He just, didn't care. Here's a long line, kid, move on, this type of thing. When I see you at the autograph signings, when I see you with the Stingers, whether they're young Stingers or old Stingers, you always make someone have a quality experience from you. Tell us how that developed.
Well, it's kind of difficult sometimes, when you only have an allotted period of time and you have to try to get everybody in. It's hard to spend all the time that you'd like to spend with each individual or each group that comes up, but I just do the best I can. But I mean, how it came about was, it actually from the ring, I was always one of those kind of wrestlers that wanted to involve the crowd in the match. It's like I realized all of you were there and all of you were watching and all of you want to be entertained, and so I tried my hardest for all those years, decades, to try to entertain them and involve them in the match. And so, this kind of there was a relationship there, and I guess it just kind of carried over into these types of, autograph sessions or, meet and greets and all that kind of thing. And especially in the last 20 years, I'd say, man, I learned how to really appreciate fans a lot more.
What are some of the things that fans have either said to you or given to you that you've cherished?
Oh, well, some of the biggest things are, and I hear this literally every single time I go and do any kind of autograph session or meet and greet. Sting, the only relationship that I had with my dad was when we used to watch you.
Wow.
And you were the only reason why we tuned in, and we watched you. And it's the only bond that I had. Or, for some, it was just the best bond that they ever had. I mean, a crazy story, and this one just happened about 6 weeks ago. It's like, I found it really hard to believe, but this guy was so genuine, and he was in tears, and his lip was quivering, and he almost could barely get his words out, and he seemed like he was totally sound, and he said, when I was really little, he said, I used to watch you on TV beat up my dad. And he said, and it made me feel so happy inside. He said, I just loved you for doing that. And so I thought, well, his dad was another wrestler, and I'm going to find out any second now who his dad was.
Yeah.
But his dad wasn't a wrestler. His dad was somebody who he said he looked exactly like Ric Flair.
Oh, wow.
And so he said you would pound Rick, and he said, and it just made me feel so good. He said because his dad was just brutal with him, physically and emotionally and verbally, abusive to him. So apparently his dad must have had, his hair all bleached out and like Rick's, and I don't know, anyway. So, these types of things, or to be able to spend some time with somebody who is, especially a child that is critically ill, and it's really the only thing they want in life is just to have this meeting and to spend time with them. And those are really important things. Or you taught me how to, and then fill in the blank. You taught me about bullying. You taught me about, standing up for yourself. Or you got me through some tough years. And most of the time, you're talking about grown men that are emotional and can barely speak. This has happened, 200 times. Just tons of. And it really hits me now, all these years later. When you don't really realize it, you are having an impact on people. And I've done a lot of stupid things, but I'm grateful that it didn't get too out of hand, and I tried to do the right thing all these years. So.
Well, anyway. And you're talking about the impact that you had on fans, and I can tell you, I didn't have, I don't have any of those profound impact stories, but I do have a more fun one that in 1997, I dressed as the Crow Sting for Halloween. And so you definitely had, I can speak to as one of the fans who you had a positive impact on from an entertainment side. I was a huge fan. One of my favorite Halloween costumes I ever did, because obviously putting the makeup on, and I had a wig to have the long hair, and I'm sure we'll have to get a picture and put it up on Twitter now that I'm saying this out loud on the air here. So I was a real big fan at that point. It's amazing sometimes to when I hear people saying, "Oh, I didn't even realize back then the impact that I was having," because you really were having a big impact.
And when I see you at the conventions and the lines of people waiting for you, every third or fourth person's got some sort of Sting thing with them, whether it's either the makeup or the crow bat, something like that. So that's got to really move you.
Well, yeah, a lot of them actually have a photograph of them dressed as me for Halloween, like you, Josh.
Josh is going to bring that to Chicago.
I'll tweet it to you when I find it.
Yeah, you have to bring that to Chicago. Yeah. So moving into the career portion of, and again, I want to thank you on behalf of all the fans, because there aren't a lot of people like you, and I know you've seen this probably. A lot of the other guys that are fan favorites, they're just, they just want to get out of the building and get there. And I think the only two people I've really seen spend like tons of time with the fans was you, and I saw Goldberg do that a few times, where he'd sit in a hotel lobby and make sure everything was signed, so everybody was happy. You're the only two I can think of that I really know have done that.
Yeah, and again, I can't. No one is perfect.
Yeah.
And I know I've had my moments where it's like you got to get up to your room. You got to get. You realize, okay, if I start this right now.
But you're not rude about it. You're not rude about it.
No, I try. Yeah, no, exactly. But it can be really, really tough from time to time, and I have made my mistakes in the past, that's for sure. Well,
I think with things like that, fans sometimes will forget that, they're seeing Sting in a hotel lobby, and they're forgetting that this is just, a person who needs to get a little sleep before he hops in the car to head to the next town. Like, they're not thinking that. They're thinking, oh, it's Sting, I need to, so yeah, that's got to be a tough thing. You're between a rock and a hard place. You don't want to upset these people who are so excited to see you, but at the same time,
got to catch
a
person.
Flight. Yeah, you need to go to sleep.
Yeah. What is? Josh just said something interesting. He said, you're a person. So Sting is the persona. Steve Borden is the guy. How do they differ, or how do they actually get along? How are they similar?
Sting and Steve?
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the most important things for somebody really in any kind of entertainment industry is to realize who you are, to realize that there is something above and beyond wrestling. There's something above and beyond entertainment, playing in the NFL or the NBA or being an Olympic athlete, and it's God. This is what I believe. It's Jesus Christ. I believe in Jesus Christ. Pretty outspoken about that. So to know that there is something beyond wrestling, and somehow or another, I don't know why, because even before I came to know who Jesus Christ is, which was August of 1998, it's like I realized that there's something beyond wrestling, and I took my wrestling hat off when I was done wrestling, and now it was time to be a father. It was time to run your business. It was time to, and so and I always had goals and things that I wanted to do beyond wrestling. It had nothing to do with wrestling. Whereas I know many of the guys that I've known over the years, wrestling is all they know, and it's all they care to know, and it consumes every minute of their life. And I've seen the toll that can take on someone that lives their life like that. I mean, eventually, the emotional breakdowns and the post-career syndrome, whatever you call that, that really sets in, and it's tough. So, I mean, just realizing that there's something beyond wrestling is the key.
Hey, while you were talking there, it made me think of something. Do you think, because obviously you were recognized out in public, do you think that you were recognized maybe less than some other wrestlers because of the fact that your face was painted?
Oh, there's no question about that. As a matter of fact, and I've told this story many times, but when I first started, the NWO was, Hall and Nash and Hogan, switching heel and that whole deal. We were in Daytona Beach. And they had the arena that we wrestled in. You'd pull in underneath, and there was a place where the fans could kind of stand up and around the entrance to this underground garage. Mm-hmm. And the guys would come in and out of there with their cars, and a lot of times you were loading up right down there at the bottom, so all the fans could see you. And I'm with Lex, and we got our bags, and we come out in wide open view of all the fans. Must have been about 300 of them there. Something 400 of them, and I was putting my bags in the trunk with Lex. We were putting our bags in the trunk of the car. And package, total package! They were all yelling and screaming, "Where's the stinger? Where's the stinger?" And Lex looked at me. His jaw dropped. His eyes were huge. He goes, "Oh my gosh, they don't even know who you are."
Yeah.
And I had just started to grow my hair out, so it was still. I didn't have the flat top anymore, but my hair was darker, a little bit longer, and already they didn't know who I was.
Wow.
And, somebody like Lex or Hogan or Bill Goldberg, these guys, when they go out in public, they are who they are.
Right.
and so for me, I could many times go under the radar a lot easier than most of the guys. But, there are times, even now, that I can't, you can't go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, that was the Steve part was with Lex Luger, but now that people know what you look like from your appearances, of course, at WWE, at the Hall of Fame, etc.
Right.
People know, that this is you. And I know it can be an imposition at times, but I know that attention and the people letting you know what you meant to them, we're going back to that for a moment, is something that not everybody gets to feel that way.
This is true. This is true. I'm actually pretty grateful for, even though it's been such a pain over the years, painting, putting the paint on the face, you get the war paint on, I mean, it's those days back in the good old days when you did 2 or 3 TV tapings in one night,
Right.
You got different types, different boots, different jackets, different paints. I mean, and you're wrestling on every single show.
Yeah.
And oh man, and sometimes I thought, why did I ever start to paint? But I look at all the action figures later, and I go, okay, well, I guess it worked.
So it's interesting you talk about the paint. I had a question I wanted to try to get to, but I think it's a good transition into it. Why do you think that you evolved once you went into, as I mentioned it earlier, the Crow sting? When you first started doing that, to the end of your career, to this point still with meet and greets and whatnot, you kind of evolved to a lasting version of that Crow look. Never going back to, you mentioned the flat top and the bleach blonde hair.
I missed the surfer look.
But not even so much the surfer thing as much as just how the patterns were always different and the colors and everything. It was always, what was the decision, or did it just kind of happen? I know you did what people on the internet at least called the Joker sting in TNA for a bit there, which was great. But why do you think you never really went back to the multicolor and stayed with more of that Crow look?
Probably because he wanted Leroy Neiman to do every one of them, right?
Yeah, right. I think really the Crow character, but by the time it came alive and hit the scene and evolved into what it turned into, it wouldn't have ever made sense to go back to the blonde flat top haircut, and
right.
Even if I wanted to, there's not enough hair on my head to do that anymore.
I'm very sensitive about hair on the head, please.
So yeah, I couldn't pull it off. Let me tell you something. If I thought that I could pull it off, I would have attempted it in these later years. But
Really?
because so many people talked about it, and they're so nostalgic. The fans are. I mean, WrestleMania 31 was a classic example. DX and NWO all out there at the same time, and people just freaked out over that.
Yeah, no, nostalgia's huge with that generation I guess my generation that grew up watching you.
Did you come up with those with the makeup patterns yourself, or was that, a lot of the companies say, hey, why don't you look like this? Was this your vision?
No, I came up with all those designs on my own. Yeah, I just Dusty, originally, we have Ronnie Garvin versus Ric Flair, big build-up, and Flair's the champion. We go to Cobo Arena or Joe Louis in Detroit. I can't remember which one. $110,000 gate, and Flair loses the title to Ronnie Garvin. We go back a month later, a $10,000 house with Ronnie Garvin as the champion. And so they need to put the belt back on Rick, which they do. Now they're going to put Rick with Ricky Morton.
Yeah,
and Ricky gets hurt. Ricky gets hurt. So Dusty says, Stinger, baby, I want to put some color on your face, some color on your tights and color on your boots, and I want to put you with Rick, So we did a little storyline, with J.J. Dillon, the Four Horsemen, Ric Flair Day, Raleigh, North Carolina, TV taping, and it was no real heat angle. We just kind of went out there and did our thing, and it worked, and it took off, and so Dusty is really the reason why the color started to begin with.
Oh wow, I never knew that.
Yeah, I never knew that either. And because he was, the last time I saw him, I did an interview with him on the WWE Network for a pilot show that wound up with JBL as the host of that thing, and we talked about what a creator to him, his creator was Eddie Graham, but Dusty created so much in the business that people don't even realize, and you just brought up another thing that I didn't even realize.
Yeah, and not on top of that, he had to have been one of the most, if not the most charismatic wrestler ever. So I trusted him, obviously I trusted him. And when he said, I'm going to put you with Rick, I went, oh man, okay. Yeah. I mean, because I knew this was a huge, everybody wanted to be in an angle with Rick. Everybody wanted to be in a storyline with Rick, and and I never imagined. And so when Dusty came to me that day and told me that, I believe we were in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he mentioned that to me, and I said, oof. Oh, okay, so I got the colored tights, I got the colored paint, and the rest is history.
How long had you been wrestling at that point? Because you seemed like that was something you couldn't believe at that point of your career, that this was happening to you.
Yeah, no, I started Thanksgiving Day of 1985, and Dusty, Jim Crockett, the Crockett's bought Bill Watts out in sometime in early 87, I believe, and before the end of 1987, I mean, it was like, I think the first quarter of 1987, somewhere around there is when Dusty came to me.
So you just mentioned something, and at WrestleCon this past year, I was sitting hawking my book, as I do everywhere, and sitting next to me was Cowboy Bill Watts and his son, Eric Watts. And I remember you coming over to our table, and one of the warmest, most sincere embraces I've seen in years was with you and Bill Watts. So let's talk about Bill Watts.
Yeah, we can talk about Bill.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, Bill was there's all kinds of things I could say about, I mean, stories. I don't know if there's even enough time, but I mean, I don't think he cared too much for me in the very beginning.
Really?
But I think he did see something in me.
Wait, what makes you say that? Why? What was the...
Well, you know, Bill was, I mean, he loved Dr. Death. He loved Steve Williams.
Yes.
And I think he loved Rick Steiner.
He did?
You know, amateur wrestlers. You know, I think he loved that. Jim Duggan, you know, didn't Jim play football somewhere? I mean, he was an athlete. So I had nothing. You know, I came in as just this guy from California who broke in with, you know, Jim Hellwig, who later became the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, I was just a guy, a meathead, you know. And so I don't know. I always got the feeling he didn't really, you know, whenever he would talk with Eddie Gilbert, who was managing Jim Hellwig and me in those early years, you know, Bill would come in and he would talk to Eddie and he would talk to Jim, but he wouldn't hardly look at me. You know, he was like almost like I wasn't there.
Wow.
And you know, and I wasn't insecure in that way or anything like that. It was but you know, and a lot of people did that because, you know, Jim was 285 pounds. He was a freak, you know, and so I was just the other guy. I was 260 pounds when we started, but, you know, compared to Jim, I was like a regular guy.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, you know, we had, you know, Jim Hellwig and I, we had we were not making any money with Bill. We were going broke. You know, we had our nights where we slept inside my 1983 T-Bird because we didn't have enough room, money for a hotel. We didn't have an apartment, and it was pretty rough there for a little while. But, you know, we wrestled 9 times a week for about a month. You know, double shots on Saturday and Sunday, and so we were expecting, you know, a really good paycheck. And for us at that time, you know, we knew that some of the guys were getting, you know, $1,500, you know, paychecks, and we had nothing more than $350, $400 a week wrestling all those times. And so we were expecting, because we were doing lots of run-ins, you know, with Eddie as our manager, and so there we were in Grambling. Is it Grambling, Mississippi?
I think so. I think I was in
Grambling,
that town too. Yeah.
I didn't Ernie Ladd play football there or something to start with?
Grambling University.
Well, anyway, so we're in Grambling, and it's a big deal. And in the main event is Bill Watts, Ernie Ladd against Jim Hellwig and Sting, you know, or The Rock and Sting, and Eddie Gilbert is our manager, and we got our paychecks that night. And Jim and I, we opened our paychecks, and it was like $450, less than half of what we thought it was going to be. And we were literally going broke. We couldn't even pay for gas to make it to the towns, you know. And so we looked at each other and we said, we're out of here. So we left. Main event, we left.
Yeah.
We were on our way to World Class. We were going to both tag up with World Class with Fritz von Erich. And so, but anyway, the next day I get a phone call from Grizzly Smith, Jake the Snake's dad. And
who,
Grizz
by the way,
says,
a lot of people don't know he was one of the bookers for Bill Watts.
For Bill Watts, yeah.
Right.
So Grizz says, Sting, what happened to you guys last night? And I said, well, and I told him the story I just told you guys. Sting, you don't want to burn bridges in this business. You know, I highly recommend you guys make it to Little Rock, or you make it to Little Rock tonight. I was in Alexandria, Louisiana when he called me. That was our home base. And he was trying to talk me into going to, you know, that night all the way up, you know, 200 miles north to Little Rock. And I said, no, I can't do that. He goes, no, you really, Steve, I'm telling you, don't burn your bridges. You know, you don't want to blackball yourself from this business, you know. And I said, well, I mean, I go up there, you know, he's going to have, you know, Dr. Death and whoever else in there and, you know, try to stretch me in the ring. no, Sting, please, you got to do it. I go, well, okay, well, what about Jim? And he says he doesn't want Jim to come up there. He doesn't want Jim back.
Wow.
He just wants. And so I thought, okay, do I take the chance? Do I? So I agreed, and I said, okay, I'll be up in Little Rock. I called Terry Taylor. And I follow Terry Taylor all the way up there, and they had me in the ring, and Bill had his moment, to have his way, because he had Dr. Death and Duggan and whoever else, everyone around him.
That's scary.
But he took care of me. He paid me, and so I never forgot that and he was he could be kind of tough on the guys, and we were constantly on the road, constantly working, and making no money at all. I don't know that there was much of a change in my paycheck, but he kept me along, and I was working. I had a job, and I was learning the ropes. I was learning the business, and so by the time Crockett, bought Bill Watts out, I had a lot under my belt, and I was ready for somebody like Ric Flair to, groom me, and that's what happened.
So that story, was that the end of the team with Jim Hellwig?
Yeah, when Jim, this was one of the unfortunate things, for Jim and I think he was looking to kind of get off on his own anyway. His ex-wife, I think, was an instigator in that. But that doesn't matter at all. But yeah, he found out, I tried to contact him before I left to go to Little Rock. I looked everywhere for him. I couldn't. I drove to the gym. I drove to all of our hangouts. I drove everywhere.
There was no cell phones back then.
Yeah, no cell phone. Yeah, and I couldn't find him. So I went up to Little Rock, and I called him that night after the show from the hotel, and I got him. And he goes, I can't believe what you did. I can't believe what you I can't believe you just left. And whoa, hold on, man. We've got 2 weeks worth of paychecks that he's holding, yours and mine. At least I'll get my 2 weeks worth of paychecks plus a new paycheck coming up, because we need all the money we can get to make the move from Alexandria to Dallas, Texas. And we needed every dime, and so I said, look, I'm getting my money. You won't get yours, but I'm getting mine, so, take it or leave it, And he said, I'm not going to do this anymore. You screwed me, and it was a bad deal. And the partnership, the tag team, we split up at that point. He did go to World Class and became the Dingo Warrior, and then the Ultimate Warrior. And then he had his big run, with WWE.
Did you ever talk to him after that? After the...
Well, I know he came to WCW.
Yeah, right. For a short
period
of time.
Yeah, he did.
Right.
But even before that, I saw him, a few times, and open arms, and we were both hugging each other, and laughing, and we just put it all behind us. And then in the end, when he became an ambassador for WWE, I was just in preliminary talks with Vince and Triple H, and I was looking forward to coming back and reconnecting with Jim again, and then we lost him.
Yeah, that was one of the most surrealistic moments I've ever seen in this business, for him to go on Monday Night Raw and make that whole speech, and then a day later he was gone.
Yeah.
So when you saw Bill Watts, was that at WrestleCon? Was that the first time you'd seen him in many years?
No. Well, yeah, in many years, yes. But we had a few meetings, afterward, and there was a period of time there where his son Eric and I were, I befriended him, and just kind of he'd gone through some really tough times, and I was trying to walk him through some hard stuff, and so we kind of got close during that, and I think his dad appreciated it. And, I don't have any hard feelings toward Bill at all.
Oh, I know that. What I said to a lot of people with Bill Watts there that he ruled with an iron hand, like Fritz von Erich did also. A lot of the guys were almost afraid of him, but it really disciplined people for what to expect in the next step in their careers.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of prep going on there, and I knew that I was getting experience, but I had no idea just how much.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally. I mean, it was 300 days, more than 300 plus days a year. You're talking, I always do the same spiel I give on some of these interviews when I talk about these old days, but it was Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, you would do a matinee show and a night show. Christmas Day, a matinee and a night show. New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, same thing. Easter Sunday, same thing. 4th of July, same thing. So there wasn't a time that you were off. I mean, it was very rare. And Eddie, who was managing us at the time, all three of us were on the road. We were on we were involved in main event matches that we had nothing to do with, but, Bill would want us to come get involved, and, and so we were there till the end of the night, and but it was experience, I was learning the business.
Yeah. So every night at home, Brandon and I had to have a wrestling match before he went to bed, and he always had to beat me with the Stinger Splash and the Sharpshooter, the Scorpion Deathlock. My question is, those two moves, was that something you came up with, or was that something that someone else helped come up with?
No, I was fortunate enough in those early days, while I was still with Bill Watts, as a matter of fact, Baba from Japan wanted me to come to his show. And, Bill sent me to Japan. And there was a wrestler named Riki Choshu.
Oh, yes.
You remember Riki Choshu?
I do, very well.
Anyway. Yes. Yeah, he used that hold, and I went, oh, I like that, and so, and then the Scorpion kind of that sort of popped in all at the same time, and then it was just branding myself, or at least attempting to, and so as a matter of fact, Jim Hellwig and I, when we first started, he was Jim Justice.
Right. That's right.
And I was Flash Borden.
Yeah, we ran pictures of you guys that were taken in Louisville. I remember that.
Yeah, and then when we switched heel, Jerry Jarrett, the first promotion we ever worked for, Jerry, he had it as baby faces, red, white, and blue. It was just, you talk about something grotesque to watch.
I remember.
It was horrible. We were so bad, he had to just switch us heel and try to make the best of, salvage what he could with us as heels. And he put us with the Fantastics for a little while. But we were so bad, he had to finish us up and get us out of there. And when before that, when we switched heel, we changed from the Freedom Fighters. We turned into the Blade Runners.
Right.
And I named myself Stinger, or people say Sting, but it doesn't matter, either one. And I named him Rock. So he was the first Rock.
Yeah, I was going to say, where did the Sting name come from? Of course, confusion in the marketplace with the singer there.
Right.
The funny thing about that is somewhere around the same time, Leroy Neiman, I got that sketch.
Yes.
I got living in Atlanta. I got a phone call from Sting's people, who called my people, and he was actually doing a concert in Chastain Park, and he wanted to meet me because he told me face to face. He said, my 9-year-old son has your poster in his room, and he said, I gotta find out who this Sting wrestler guy is,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
so he brought me up on stage and put the guitar around my neck, and
I saw the photo. Yeah.
I never knew that.
I said something stupid like I'd like to thank you on behalf of the band, and whatever. An old Beatles line.
Yes.
And I hope we passed the audition. That was the rest of it. Yes.
Wait, one other question regarding the hold, by the way, just to get back to that. In the magazine, I remember we did the Scorpion Deathlock versus the Sharpshooter. Which is deadlier?
Well, I'd say if it's Sting putting the Scorpion Deathlock,
yeah,
on somebody, then that's it. But if it's Brett putting the Scorpion Deathlock on somebody, it's not it.
Oh, right.
But
Okay.
if it's Brett doing the sharpshooter, that's it. But if it's Sting doing the sharpshooter, that's not going to work.
I see what you're
okay.
doing
We
there.
got the
Okay.
answer.
That's a fair answer.
Talk about a political
That was
answer.
that was a perfect political answer there. So jumping around a bit, I've always been curious. The last Nitro, and we're obviously jumping all the way through your WCW career with this question, but you've talked about your storied career with Ric Flair, and the last Nitro having it end with you and Rick in the ring in that match. I was always curious for you what that felt like, what that was you were referred to as the franchise.
Yeah, you were
of
WCW.
And even to when you came into the WWE, there was still the playoff. You and Triple H at WrestleMania was Sting's WCW, like you said, the NWO and DX being involved. What was that like for you? What were your feelings the last Nitro and being in the ring with Rick one more time for WCW?
It was shocking. It was surreal. It was emotional, really, because it was a lot of years of, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of fighting tooth and nail to not be the second-class wrestling organization, the second-class citizen, but to finally evolve into number one, the number one wrestling organization in the world, by far, head and shoulders, no questions, hands down, to be that first-class citizen, first-class wrestling organization, a machine, a global machine, and then to watch it all just slip through your fingers and be gone and totally out of your control. I always say it was like the enemy came into the camp and just had their way.
And who was the enemy in that? Because that was another question that someone had sent in for you was, what do you think the event was that led to the end of WCW? And you say the enemy, is that the corporate side of it, or was it, what do you think it was?
Well, WWE came in and they would be the enemy,
So you're referring you were referring to the last Nitro when they purchased it.
The last night. I mean, the company that we were number two behind them for so many years, and then to be above them and to be number one, only to end up losing it back to them and then totally losing it to them.
Right.
Was tough. It was tough to swallow. Really tough. Because especially for somebody like me, you're saying, well, they said you were the franchise, you were this, you were that. I mean, I did every single meet and greet, every single tour to promote I traveled all over the place to promote our tours, and I was the guy. I was on the road more than anyone, and so it was hard to see happen, and it was totally out of my hands, out of my control. It was gone, and it was kind of embarrassing too,
So you could sense the sincerity in his whole tone there, that he really wanted to talk about that part of Sting.
Yeah, it was really, really informative for me growing up, a huge Sting fan. As I mentioned, I dressed as him for Halloween.
Yeah. As did my son Brandon, by the way.
Yeah. And I think that for Sting fans out there, it was really interesting to kind of hear about how he got to where he got to.
Yeah.
Because if he was already established by the time you started watching, maybe Sting had just always been there, and you think he started his career as the Surfer Sting. So it was really cool to kind of go back and hear
find out where he really came from. And again, in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Now, don't think we're not going to be here next week. We will with James E. Cornette. However, Sting will be back in 2 weeks.
Yes, and it is a great interview. Like I had said in the beginning, a little more of his modern career.
Yeah, talking about Seth Rollins, Triple H, and a lot more of the more contemporary things that are going on in the world of sports entertainment.
Yes.
So, Josh, in November,
Yeah.
I'm going to jolly old England, one of my favorite places in the whole world.
Yes, and you know what? I'm excited for you.
Excuse me!
Okay, that was
So,
so I was going to tell you.
Excuse me!
So, you know who that is, right?
Yeah, that's Vickie Guerrero.
That is Vickie Guerrero. And Vickie Guerrero is being brought to the United Kingdom by kayfabe events.
I see what's happening now.
Yes, and to kind of paraphrase, they're delighted. I'm paraphrasing Jason Walls, the main man behind kayfabe events. We are delighted to announce that joining us in the UK in November is none other than former WWE diva. She wasn't she, Josh?
I'd say she was at least a WWE cougar.
I like that. Raw and SmackDown General Manager Vickie Guerrero for an evening with the WWE UK's Eddie Dennis and a Q&A orchestrated by Chuck Mambo. You want to know when?
Yes, I would love to know.
Okay, so November 14th, Cardiff. Now, do you know, by the way, what Cardiff is famous for?
No.
The singer Tom Jones is from Cardiff.
That's
So
not
that's
unusual.
in Wales, yes, but that's not unusual. Google that, kids. So we'll be joined by Dragon Pro UK for an exclusive live podcast. Then,
What's happening on the 15th?
Well, then it comes. See, I was going to read this and put Manchester, but the British people say Manchester.
Okay.
Yes, and there'll be an exclusive live podcast with guests to be announced. Now on the 16th,
I better get my ticket ready.
Yeah, well on the 16th, London, England. And not only will Kayfabe Events be doing another live podcast with British Empire Wrestling, they are joined by a very special guest doing his fabulous one-man show. The guy's name is that journalist and broadcaster, Bill Apter.
Oh my God, I've heard of him.
Yeah, he does the Apter Chat,
Not a fan.
that podcast. No.
Not a fan. No, Bill, you're going to be there, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, in London on the 16th and 17th in Hove, H-O-V-E, which is right by Brighton, the Kayfabe Curtain Call. They will not only have Vickie Guerrero doing her event, but also they will host me one more time doing my fabulous one-man show and the possibility that some karaoke might break out.
Oh, I think odds are pretty good.
And
that
I might
they're
do some
going to.
rapioke, because I like to rap.
You did that last week.
Yeah. So there'll also be a live roundtable discussion with Riptide Wrestling, a live podcast from TWM News, and Q&As with David Starr. By the way, yeah, he's coming from the United States, and guess what? Oscar from Men on a Mission, who has
Awesome.
been part of my show for back in New Orleans, WrestleMania weekend. He's making the trip too. Also, meet and greets. Do you know who? Well, here's the list of meet and greets, Josh. Why don't you read that?
All right, Jimmy Havoc,
Yeah.
Spike Trivet, Roy Johnson,
Spike Trivet, mate.
William Aver,
Yes.
Jack Sexsmith, Robert Sharp, Damon Moser, Chris Ridgway, and TK Cooper.
So the event will be finished with a big star-studded tour blowout party hosted by Chuck Mambo. Now, next week, we will have exclusive details for people in the United Kingdom how you can win free admission to any one of these events.
But for those of you who can't win that free admission, tickets are available at kayfabeevents.com.
Josh, we need some more chairs. Well, one more chair. Mac Davis, from the president of Smarthold, is looking to sit down here.
Oh, well, welcome. And you know what, Bill? That's kind of a funny coincidence, or maybe it's not a coincidence at all, because Smarthold is one of our newest sponsors.
They are, and they're sponsoring this edition of
Ask Apter.
So, do you know what Smarthold is?
I do, but you know what? Some of the Apter chatters might not. So, Bill,
So
tell
I
us a
think
little bit about it.
Mac would like me to tell them about it. So,
think he would.
Smarthold is a message on hold service, and it only costs, get this, $35 a month.
Oh,
That's
well, but obviously they lock you into some sort of contract.
No contracts.
No contracts?
$35 a month and no contracts at all. So what is Smart Hold? Well, if you run a business where you place callers on hold when they call you, one of your most effective yet least expensive marketing tools is Message on Hold from Smart Hold. So sometimes you'll get this generic music.
Yeah. Like elevator music.
Yeah, elevator music or some loud music and something that really bothers you while you're waiting on hold.
Or the worst thing, Bill, is silence. Because now
Terrible.
with cell phones,
Yeah.
you don't know. Did they hang up or did they not? Like,
Like placing a caller on hold, it's deadly silence. So most callers won't be sure if they're still connected. You're going like, am I still on the phone? And they'll probably hang up. That's it. So can you afford to lose that call?
I couldn't.
No. So with Smart Hold, they make your caller's hold time enjoyable and, more importantly, informative while making the caller's hold time feel a lot shorter. So it also makes you sound a lot more professional. Now, there are several things you get when you take out Smart Hold for only $35 a month, no contract. You'll get professional voice talent, both male and female. Unlimited message changes. That's really cool.
Professional script writers.
Yeah, they'll take care of that for you.
Broadcast quality audio, fresh background music.
Music licensing fees, so
And-
there's no trouble with...
And even a Smart Hold player, should you need one, at no charge.
So for $35 a month per location served, there are no contracts. What a great deal.
Wow. Go to www.smart-hold.com and order today. One more time, that's www.smart-hold.com.
Mac, I got it. Be smart and get Smart Hold. Okay, Josh, you've got questions for me?
I do. I think it's time to hashtag Ask Apter. And the first Apter Chatter to ask you a question is Michael Berry Sr. He asked, what are you most looking forward to at All In?
Well, mostly to see all the great fans that are coming from all over to see All In and be at StarCast. But the biggest draw to me on that show is the National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Championship match between the champion Nick Aldis and the challenger Cody Rhodes. I just think it's going to be a classic NWA title match.
Question for you. Do you see Nick Aldis being 10 pounds lighter when the match is over?
Even though you didn't hashtag Ask Apter, I am going to answer that question, and the answer is yes. I think Cody Rhodes' time is here.
All right.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to this being a match that the National Wrestling Alliance can say this is one of the greatest NWA title matches ever.
Chris, at Chris Spears 84, sent a question in. Over under for 8 matches on the main All In show. How long you think the event will last? Preferably, I hope it's 2 hours and 45 minutes to 3 hours, but then again, this is a first of a kind, so who knows? So I guess the question really in there, I don't think we don't have time to go an over under on all 8 matches. But
7 days, Josh.
You think it's gonna be 7 days?
7 days.
Okay.
7 days. Interesting question. I figure 4 to 5 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, is that
Counting
from-
the WGN hour as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, there will be a tailgating party.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm there, rain or shine. You and I are going in the same car.
We are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We should rent that.
We will be there. Good idea.
Dismal Abysmal
I love that. I love that name.
asks, do you ever get tired of wrestling?
Well, I haven't been in the ring that often. Just my, but no, the subject of pro wrestling, the answer is no. Ask my wife. It's 24/7. No, I've never gotten tired of it. From when I started watching it when I was about 7 or 8 years old, all the way up until I'm 25 now.
Yeah.
But no, I never get tired of it. I always love it. There's always something new and compelling. And too many people look for too much of the negatives. I look for the positives, and that's what keeps me going.
All right, this next one comes from at BApter23.
After 20, that's not.
BApter23, and he...
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What's his question?
Well, his question is, what is it like having such a wonderful son?
Well, he's probably talking about my son, Brandon Apter, who's the host of the podcast Apter Hours.
Yeah. Great podcast, by the way.
Yeah, great son, too.
Oh, well then what's it like having such a wonderful son?
Wonderful.
Okay. Hey, Robert Simon at RobertSimon9702H. I thought he was putting like his social security number.
Right, I was going to say that.
He piggybacks saying, Mr. Apter, if you answer this question, please cut a promo on him. So it looks like
What's
Robert
his
would
question?
like you to, he's asking, would you cut a promo on your wonderful son, Brandon?
Wait, maybe he wants me to cut a promo on him,
No, he said on him.
meaning my son.
Yes.
Well, when my son was little, he used to wear a mask. He was a big Rey Mysterio fan.
Oh, God, I thought this was like a...
No, and he was El Brando.
Growing up, you just couldn't stand the way he looked. So you made your poor son wear a mask around the house.
We wrestled in the living room, and he was El Brando.
Ah.
And I was Wonderful Willie, of course. There we go with the voice again. And El Brando used to try to beat Wonderful Willie every night in the living room before El Brando went to bed, and he had to use the sharpshooter.
Scorpion Deathlock.
No, because he was also part Bret Hart fan. So he wanted to use the sharpshooter.
The Sharp Deathlock.
Yeah,
Or the Scorpion Shooter.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So, you know something, El Brando? For many years, you defeated Wonderful Willie, if you will, in the living room of the house. But now that you're older and I'm older and wiser, you come back home from where you live in Georgia, and you can be sure that Wonderful Willie and my figure four leg lock will end your wrestling career. And you will be El Mysterio for no longer in your life. You will be a mystery because no one will know what happened to you after I put on that figure four.
That got really dark.
Yeah,
that was great. Yeah. Hey, guys, send some love
and
over
girls.
to After Hours Pod and maybe throw some follows to young
I'm worked
El
up
Brando.
Now. Yeah, I'm worked up now, El
Well,
Brando.
good,
Or,
because-
sometimes he called himself El Mysterio.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm worked up now because Wonderful Willie wants a piece of him.
Oh, boy. Thanksgiving's going to be...
Yeah.
hopefully you'll be tired from your trip back from London.
Never. Josh,
yeah.
I never get tired. I'm up till 1 a.m.
I know.
And then I get up at 6:30, 7 o'clock a.m.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to go.
All right.
And you know what I'm not tired of?
What?
Wrestling.
Yeah. And you know what else?
What?
We got more questions for you.
Oh,
And
okay.
this one comes to us from at WrestleMax2H. What is your relationship with Dave Meltzer like? What was your take on the recent controversy over his Peyton Royce comments? Justified or much ado about nothing?
Well, the Peyton Royce comments he apologized for. He kind of said he was out of line, so I'll let it go at that. I've known Dave for, I've been in the business for 51 years. I've known Dave for probably about 35 to 40 years. Back in the magazine days, we used to, and it was forbidden to talk to Dave Meltzer. If you got caught, you were not allowed to engage in talking with any of the wrestlers or anything because you might tell Meltzer, and he might put it in the Wrestling Observer. But I've known Dave forever, and we've always had a great relationship. We're on two sides of the fence. His journalism and mine were two different types completely. Mine was more of the sensationalism magazine style for many, many years, and his was reporting the backstage inside stuff.
Right. Well, you kept much more of the
Kayfabe, yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And he was much more of the dirt behind, the
absolutely.
gossip.
But dirt in a good way. It was fine. But the promoters, what I didn't like was the promoters sometimes would change what they were doing to fool Dave Meltzer. So Dave Meltzer and I, great relationship, and I look forward to seeing him, by the way, at StarCast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question comes from David S. Frederick. Your opinion on the fan dislike of Hands of Stone Ron Garvin becoming NWA World Champion in September 1987. Many believe he was not worthy of the title. What I think really disgruntled fans was not Garvin winning. It was Jim Crockett Jr. announcing Garvin would not have to defend the title till Starrcade.
Well, I was there. I shot the match. I photographed that match. And I thought Ronnie Garvin would be a really good NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fans were disgruntled because he didn't seem to be in the that top echelon tier, but they were building him to it, so it was a surprise victory. I thought it was a good title change. I really did. It made it interesting to see what are they going to do with the champion next.
Yeah, definitely not it didn't do an amazing amount for business, I don't believe, at the time, and that's why it wasn't a very long reign.
Well, he wasn't one of the major Billboard names yet, but he was going to be made a major Billboard name.
Do you think that Jim Crockett Jr., and this is just me asking, hashtag Ask Apter, do you think that Jim Crockett Jr. announcing that he would not defend the title until Starrcade put unwanted heat on Ronnie Garvin?
No, absolutely not. I think it would make it more interesting as to why isn't this guy going to defend it until Starrcade, starting a little controversy.
Okay, so the fans just didn't get behind him because of...
I can't say that the fans didn't get behind him.
Okay.
There were a lot of fans that were behind him.
Oh, sure.
And there were some fans who weren't. But you can't say the majority were against him. David Frederick might have been against this, but...
Well, according to what Sting said in the interview earlier, it wasn't really great for business.
Well, it's all about business, but in the magazine, we got a lot of mail about Ronnie Garvin as being an excellent champion. And as you know, he was one of the amazing Garvin family with Terry Garvin and Jimmy Garvin. So, yeah.
All right, next question here comes from Jimmy Nogmix Markov. What is the candy of choice for this episode? Well, I think we already know that.
Oh, they're sitting right here. It's Tic Tacs.
Tic Tacs.
Fruit Adventure.
And Tic Tac, the company, feel free to contact us, theafterchat@gmail.com if you're interested in sponsoring.
You know what? You fans should go to the Twitter of Tic Tac and let them know that we're talking about them in a favorable light.
Yes.
Their Fruit Adventure, I'm a big fan of this. So, yeah, that's Tic Tacs.
Yeah. All right, so that's all we've got for you. Thank you guys again, and remember,
wait a minute,
you can
that's
send.
it?
Yeah, that's it.
It hasn't even been 3 hours yet.
Hey, but I want to say to the After Chatters, thank you guys for all of the 5-star reviews that have come in on iTunes. It has not been enough to be able to get that extra question from Bill, but you guys, there's definitely been an increase, and we appreciate that.
Wait a minute. You mean the question of why I was not permitted at ringside?
Why you were banned from ringside from the WWF?
I was actually banned from the whole building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
the story behind it.
No, you can't tell it. We have to get to 50 5-star reviews.
You know, you're a hard producer.
Well, hey, I got a job to do. We need those 5-star reviews, and we know that you guys are enjoying this, or at least we hope you are.
And
if
girls.
you are, and the girls. And if you are enjoying the After Chat, please let us know at the After Chat on Twitter. Remember where you can get the merch, theafterchat.com. You can also buy Bill's book. You will be able to see us at StarCast and All In. We'll be there. If you see us, come say hello.
By the way,
Yeah.
who is our guest today?
Our guest was Sting.
So, on October 20th, my birthday weekend, I will be doing a live Apter's Alley at Awesome Wrestling Entertainment's event in Waynesboro, Virginia. I am so psyched to do that.
And who will you be interviewing?
Sting.
Well, there you go.
Didn't I just say that?
No.
I thought I did.
Well, I'm here to help you
Well,
out.
let me say it again. August 20th.
That's what partners do.
August 20th, Waynesboro, Virginia. Awesome Wrestling Entertainment. And I can't wait to see my AWE family again and all the great fans. My birthday weekend, I will be in the ring doing an Apter's Alley with the icon, Sting.
Bill, where can they find you on Twitter? Where can the Apter Chatters chat at you?
At Apter1 Wrestling. That's the number 1, not the word.
And you guys can find me at So Says Shernoff. I appreciate any time you guys are tweeting at me, any interactions. It's fun to talk to you guys. You know, we love doing this podcast. The one thing we don't get to do with this podcast is get to talk to you guys. And that's why, again, we are so excited to be at StarCast. As you're listening to this, we're there. And Bill's phone is already blowing up.
Yeah, hang on a minute. Let me answer that.
Who is it?
Hold on a minute. Hello? Is wrestling fixed?
I didn't know it was broken.
We'll see you at the matches.